All right. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Inside an Indian Country. And today, definitely very grateful and full of gratitude to have an opportunity to speak with Principal Chief Standing Bear of the Osage Nation. Hey, Mr. Standing Bear, how you doing today, sir?
Fine, Wes. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate it. And in this next series of our podcast, we're going to talk to just different leaders across Indian country and really talk about leadership and, more importantly, Native American Heritage Month. You'd break down a couple of things for me, sir, if you can. That'd be great. What inspired you to be and take a leadership role? I know that in our kind of off off camera, if you will, conversations, you had mentioned all your journeys on Navajo in Oklahoma. So just kind of curious, what really inspired you to get in that direction?
Well, Wes, I'm just built like we all are in our own ways. In retrospect, it is clearer to me now that the path for all of us is pretty well set. And we have to uh, contemplate our next step a little more. I have ignored my own advice more than once, and it's always got me in a situation. So as I get more mature, I caution myself that I'm not as smart as I may think I am, and surround myself with smart, experienced people. It's probably the best advice I can give you. However, directly to response to your question, without trying to sound full of hubris, I can tell you I've always felt as a leader, I was matched up by events. And for my life, I graduated from high school in 1971 and went to the University of Oklahoma
Mm-hmm.
at a time when the university students were protesting the mascot, Little Red, who would run out in Indian regalia every time the university football team, which I love the Sooners, but every time they made a touchdown, Little Red would go out and dance around. And before I knew it, which was my sophomore year, I became president of the Indian Club. And there weren't that many of us back then at OU. I mean, very few. And some of our people from different tribes, I was very excited at their approach to that issue, which our parents' generation thought it was a source of pride, and my grandparents' generation. With this generation, I was my comrades as students were thought it as an affront and began to protest even right there what was going on. So I became the president, and in 72, 73, 74, the national movement of the American Indian movement took hold, and they came through Oklahoma. At first, it was disruptive until we uh, decided to stick together as much as we could, our group, because these folks were from other places up who we're not familiar with. And it caused a lot of friction between generations of our people. But nevertheless, Wounded Knee occurred. One of my roommates ended up going up there. Some of my friends were involved in going up there. It was a place different than you see now, because I saw it on television or on photographs, I should say. I was just there at Pine Ridge about 2 months ago, and they didn't mention the occupancy there. They were more interested in talking about the Wounded Knee issue. So anyway, I was as I went through and I got to the University of Tulsa for law school, I again was fortunate enough to have a professor, Dr. Renard Strickland, who started the Indian law program at Tulsa, primarily an oil and gas school. But he put that together. And then as I went into my law practice, I had no relatives in the legal business. Those days it was more of a who you know, who you related to. All that still goes on. And went to the Native American Center, which is in Oklahoma City. And we were like street lawyers working for the Native people. I became more interested in tribes, and I had interned with the Muscogee Creek Nation for a semester while in law school. And as I went through my early career, as these matters kept coming to me and I to them, I began to be more aware of the other people and movements that were involved, because these got intense. American Indian movement, the other issues that went along with that, FBI were everywhere. It was quite the deal, and still is actually. And so I then took other steps to learn more. The Native American Center was great, but the Muscogee Creek Nation had a job opening as a title lawyer for land titles. So I left the streets of Oklahoma City, and my young wife and children were hanging in there with me, and went over to the capital of Muscogee Creek Nation, fourth largest tribe in the country at the time. And most of their members, 2/3 of their members, lived in their area, which is an issue I'd like to talk about in a minute, about people moving away. But so I was there, and next thing I know, down in Florida, the Seminoles started high stakes bingo, and the Cabazon and Morongo started high stakes bingo. So the chief called me in and go find out what they're doing. And I did. By that time, the attorney that was my predecessor, he was a retired oil and gas lawyer. We're in Oklahoma, right? So he stepped aside. I was general counsel to the Muscogee Creek Nation, and I was 2 years out of law school, less than 2 years out of law school. So I was in my late 20s. And because I told the chief and eventually the council what I had learned, they said, learn as much as you can. And our development people, you go with them. Development folks will develop, do all the legal work, etc. And to save a lot of time, I can tell you, I filed along with a couple other lawyers the first federal gaming case in Oklahoma in November 1984. And so that's another example of me being drawn to events and always feeling like I have a big role in this place. Fortunately for me, I had a good wife to support me, and my elders supported me. Some because I went to University of Oklahoma, and we were big football fans, and others because they were all about telling us you'll get an education, and they were backing it up with something they hadn't talked about. What do you do when you start coming back? So as I went back home, my people and relatives and my people were very, I don't want to use the word religious, but that I guess you have to. They told us where we were in the world. If you can imagine, in my mind, it was like if you imagine a spark just existing for a millisecond. We're lucky if we're that much.
Yeah.
So they had many sayings I've heard all my life. And when I go through what I did go through, and I was no angel, let me tell you, running around with some buddies from other tribes. I'm not going to mention the tribes, brothers. I'm not going to do it. But man, I became a pretty regular fella. It was like that song with Rod Stewart, Maggie May. I got to get back to school. Yeah, I had to get back to OU because my grade point required that I actually be there and study.
Yeah.
So I went on. And then as I went through my career, it's been like that. and every situation. So as I worked for all these tribes, different places, tribal nations, I say now, like we all trying to go through that. I've always tried to see what does this people, believing as I was taught by Dr. Strickland in the 1970s, that every one of these federally recognized tribes, and that's a controversy these days too, state recognized versus federally recognized. Every one of these federally recognized is how I did it. They are unique, and if you're professionals there, Wes, probably know this. Every nation, tribal nation, is unique, although they may have a common source, either in political formation, 1930s, 50s, 40s, role of the Bureau of Indian Affairs, doing new organic documents into new constitutions. I know I had heard the Dene has experienced this. Osage, my tribe, experienced this in 2004. We had to take an act of Congress for us to get away from a form of government set up by the federal government, which had as voting requirements you had to own a piece of our mineral estate. So compared to you and the Navajo or Dene, you guys are huge. Where we were today, 27,000 people, and of our 27,000 people, only about 6,000, less than that, have any interest in legal interest in our mineral estate. So but what was crazy, that's a sad story about why it happened. But seed killers of the flower moon, and they'll cover that. But we, if you had two shares, because it was all set up like a company, you had shares of a head right, which is an ownership interest. You got 2 votes in our government. And to hold office, you had to be a shareholder. So just a small group were controlling everything that was Osage. And basically all the council did was approve leases, oil and gas leases, to make the move of the Indian Self-Determination Act, to follow President Nixon's Indian policy statement as reiterated by President Reagan, which I do. I mean, my whole political philosophy has now come to where I go back to the early, those 3 sources. And in fact, I was thinking about this a couple of days ago. I did go back and read them again because in this confusing time, how we're surviving here is sticking to that. So anyway, I have had a lot of good experiences, a lot of good teachers, a lot of good people to work with. I was healthy enough to go forward, assume responsibility, and work as a team. And so that's the short answer to your question.
Well, I appreciate that. We had a chance to sit down and have some coffee, a couple months ago. Just kind of really struck me just on, your journey as as a professional, as a lawyer, and then kind of moving up, and just some of the stories you shared, and even at that time, just willing to sit down with me and who am I? I really appreciate taking the time to do so, and that kind of speaks volumes to your willingness to share and educate, and that's kind of some of the key qualities I think with leaders and so forth. So obviously as you progressed along, and plenty of successes, but what were some of your challenges as a leader? I think a lot of people that are going to listen in are going to really face those situations, and what are some things that kind of helped you through that process?
The challenges are part of my learning experience, understanding that although we come from very similar backgrounds, we have truly individual tribal nation identities as expressed through practices. And let me tell you this. My wife, who's also Osage, as my children who are now in their 40s, now grandchildren getting out of high school, they're starting college, she would always say, "Why don't you write this down? Why don't you record this or that?" And I understand why our old folks didn't, because you cannot convey your culture, your understanding of the world, your view of the world by a tape recorder or any kind of recording device. So our people say, and I really believe this is an example, Wes, what I'm talking about, these ways will teach you. What they're telling us, once you get in there and start looking at it from their point of view, you cannot learn this in school or in class or whatever. You got to participate. So, but what is difficult and sad is that loss of language, loss of cultural identity happens so fast. I've had elders say during the 60s, I remember dinners where we always had dinner, someone going to school, someone getting an award or getting back from the service or whatever. We'd always have a meal, and everything around that table and the people that would be guests or whatever would be in Osage all the way. And then just amazingly fast, it started slipping into Osage as elders passed away. I'm slipping into English. And it's a different view of the world. The Osage language, which is a Siouan language, we're mostly related to the Ponca tribe, the Kaw tribe, the Quapaw. 5 tribes. Did I mention all 5 of them? If I left one out, it's because so be it. No, I'm not going to mention one. I don't know. So it's the understanding that they're different. And now I'm going to have to use your tribal nation, Wes, as my biggest challenge and maybe my biggest disappointment in my career. I went there to Window Rock. It was Dr. Renard Strickland who called me and said Sharon Blackwell, who later became Commissioner of Indian Affairs, she was the top solicitor. Her best friend is this Mrs. Upshaw, and her son Michael has just become a attorney general, and he needs some help. So we think the best thing for you to do is, he knows you're going to call him, and he's got an economic development unit. At the time, Navajo Attorney General's office had 23 attorneys in the AG office. Then we had over natural resources. We had a couple of attorneys. And we had some here and there. And then we had the Navajo Hopi area. And so we always said any lawyers, and I think there were 6 of them, they told me, that go that way, you never see them again. It's just like they're just going into a black hole and they just disappear. So I did the economic development. So we're going there. I put in, I worked with Senator Pinto, worked with State Representative Watchman, the states. That's why I learned in Oklahoma. You got to work with the feds. You got to work them, even then make your stand on sovereignty as you understand it. I'd like to talk about that in a second. I know at FedMart, only grocery store around, they didn't keep the freezer section frozen. So the food was soggy, and it was like Indian land, man. I mean, there was like, my wife and my mother-in-law went down there, and there was Yebiches dancing around the hall in the aisles, and I had told her, I said, "You see anything like that? They're coming around. Just give them some money." I told her how to interact, and it was just for them. So, but that FedMart needed to improve. So the best way, I went down and worked with our development people, and Al Henderson was the head of that. And we went after Bashas. and got Bashes in there. Eddie Basher, I think it was his name. And so next thing you know, Bashes is up, and then FedMart does a complete renovation. And that showed me about competition. So I did roads, things like Navajo fairground, get new asphalt in there to the people. It's big stuff. But there was no governing constitution. Everything was done by resolution. And we had 88 council members. Yep. We had the chairman and the vice chairman. Then the court was over there, that was not involved, and went to that process or legislation. They'd meet for weeks in a row. And it got very personal, not for me, but for the actors of the people that were taking that as part of their job. They would do extracurricular activity. I was asked by a staff member of Chairman McDonald to come work in the chairman's office as special counsel. Now I'm going to spend too much time on this, but real quickly, at that time, and I haven't been back there in 35 years. At that time, all the houses were owned by the nation. So if you weren't working a high staffer, you got a nice place there at Window Rock. When I first went in there, I had put my wife and family in Albuquerque and had a one-room trailer when I was working for the Department of Justice of Navajo. But as I moved up to the chairman's office, I never met Chairman McDonald until then. Lo and behold, he's a graduate of the University of Oklahoma. So, and I knew his son, Rocky, and his daughter, Linda, from school days. So anyway, he, brilliant man, had a lot of issues happen, which I don't want to bring that time back. But it was my efforts and other efforts to try to hold it together were unsuccessful. And as a result, people were hurt politically, physically. Well, it just got difficult. I don't want to get into all that, but what was interesting is the expressions of the Navajo, at the time, say Navajo, people in how to deal with this crisis. And, a simple example would be there were medicine man wars going on. So I'd look out my office and I'd see this man up there digging a hole in the ground. My secretaries are all traditional too. They looked modern, but they weren't. They were both. So had one from Western Agency, one from Eastern. So anyway, they went there. These medicine men would be pulling stuff out of the ground. You go, aha, I've got it. Apparently overnight, another medicine man would be putting stuff around my office, messing this up. And so then I got to know some of these guys, and I said, I got to know him I knew Raymond Knockeye. You ever hear of him? He was chairman before. He's the one that told me I'm failing the chairman McDonald because I'm not writing something up declaring martial law. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. But anyway, I was talking to some of these guys, and got very relaxed around. They got to know him. What is going on here? And they said, it's real simple, really, because they knew I appreciate Indian ways. And they said that Window Rock, when the Bureau of Indian Affairs and the federal government came here to build their offices, we know that all that comes through that Window Rock creates chaos right here. So we wanted them to all be in chaos. And then one guy says, we had no idea they were going to put the tribal offices here. Our great-grandparents put them all right here. So everything is coming out here. This tribal government is just chaos. And it's because of where they located the offices. Well, McDonald, I told Chairman that. He checked it out. And he goes, we needed to move the executive office to Chinle, and which we never got to. But what happened, I thought, I love the Navajo Dene people. I really do. I love the country. A friend of mine had a T-shirt when he came to visit me in Oklahoma. It's appropriate. It says Navajo World Order. Okay? Because that's how it is. So you've got to understand the differences between these nations, the relationships, for example, similarities of the Apache with the Dene. There's a tribe up in Alaska called the Dene. And they came down and they're talking, they can talk to each other. Well, and you still have your language. I got back, like I said, from, I was telling somebody from Pine Ridge, checking out their food sustainability projects, which is outstanding. They're taking care of each other. We are too. We got 3 months worth of food.
Nice.
We're, to fight this federal shutdown. We got enough to feed everybody on those programs. And we have a greenhouse, big 40,000 square foot greenhouse. We can process meat. We all learned this from COVID. Okay. Mm-hmm. That we gotta feed ourselves. So we can do about 60 head of cattle or bison. We got 2,000 head of cattle and 300 some head of bison. We're going to have 200 more, and we can process them. So that's a COVID lesson. But Wes, I got to tell you, I was talking to, when I found out this was will be on screen, not just audio. I sat down here, I looked at all this stuff back here, and I go, oh man, that's clutter. But I said, I can tell them something about this, why it's here. And I think it's relevant because if you look at this, a friend of mine made this. Can you see this?
Yeah, I can see it.
This is our Native American. This is a friend of mine gave me a replica. Of course, this center part's as big as a human body. I mean, that's a replica of our moon for the Native American church. Right, I made that. And Roadman sits up here, and we have the Crossroads guys, and the fire there, and firemen are down here. And there's a little mound there. And it looks like a little sweat lodge, which it is in a way, because our sweat lodge is out over here, and there's the sun. And our people always talk to the sun first. A grandfather, they don't pray to the sun like people see as, we're praying to the sun. We're asking the sun as a great person created by God to carry our messages to God. Because all these people used to sit around here, they would say, you're too small to know the mind of God. You must ask God's staff, the sun, moon, everything. You must talk to them to talk to God for you because they were created first. So that's kind of basic Osage one and other tribes one-on-one.
Right.
And then when you look at this is my grandfather's whip. He was a whip man in one of our ceremonies.
Oh, okay.
And then this here, you've seen this, like this, right? Eagle wing.
Yep.
Ahusaki, that's what we call that. Well, there's two of them. I'll just let you know. This one here, and there's another one. That one on the left you kind of use as a crucifix. If you're Catholic, you know what that is. Mm-hmm. And we hang it over children's cribs, Yeah. This one here is what you use when you want to bless somebody and all that. You touch something, then you do that. You start like, make an arrow. Don't start at the bottom like a lot of these guys do. You got to start at the top and work your way down like an arrowhead. So there you go, inside info. And then this is really cool. This, we're trying to go into Missouri with a casino, and it's a battle. And we have established ourselves back in there. And the mayor of a small town said, Chief, those seeds you brought back, because one of our members keeps heirloom seeds, we gave them away to some of these gardeners up there in Missouri. And he said, I'm giving you this because this is the first corn grown from those seeds when your people lived here until 1808. Were driven out, common story, and in southern Kansas and Oklahoma. And we left a lot of people back there that didn't make it, and a lot of our customs. So that mayor just kind of knew, he's a gardener, those guys kind of know stuff. And so this is that first corn from our people since 1808. So there it is. And that's why this is here. Then I got a drum up there, little
There you
hand
go.
drum
Yep.
there. And in central Missouri, this man gave me this. It's a grinding stone.
Well, yeah.
And these anthropologists were telling us that this is pushed south into central Missouri, the rock itself, from the Ice Age, like
Wow.
15,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And then when they pulled back, they left rocks. So our people took this and used the rocks and made them, so you can make your corn and stuff.
Grain corn. Yep. Yep.
And this one here is from those days. So that's a connection. So that's the kind of stuff I like.
Yeah.
And that keeps me going.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome.
Well, it's all physical objects and they're going to be gone someday, but I'm a caretaker of them now. Yeah. And pretty much that's what drives me now. As far as sovereignty, that's a loaded word. A lot of these tribal leaders get up there and say sovereignty. They don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So, but that's a complicated word. And in Europe, they always talk about, I'm not a European, but I've read a lot. They talk about internal sovereignty and external sovereignty. And I've translated that to mean external sovereignty is our government-to-government relationships with the United States, with the states, with the cities, counties, and so forth, and other Indian nations. So then we have the internal, which is taking care of each other. And that's where we get into some real crazy issues. Our constitutions need to be, in my opinion, worked on, cleaned up, clarified, quit being so ambiguous so people can pick and choose what they want out of the Constitution or laws. We've got to all agree and do a better job. Because as I go from when I was a lawyer, from tribal nation to tribal nation, whenever there's ambiguity, someone's going to take advantage of that. And what's really bad when outside people come in and partner up with people on the inside, next thing you know, say, well, where'd that 23 million go? Well, half that's in Costa Rica, as we're on Facebook showing their new hotel and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, so you just got to, I don't know how everybody deals with this, but I love our Indian people. And I tell you what I've told when I was running for chief 12 years ago, I was on our legislature and also was a lawyer too. So I had to give up that law practice and then come chief. My campaign was I was trying to explain sovereignty in the clearest, simplest form that I could that made sense. We lost almost all our elders, so now I'm talking to everybody else, my generation. Mm-hmm. We know about that much, and the younger ones, they're doing their best. Heck, some of them speak better Osage than I do. We have immersion classes and all that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So what I've told people in my campaigns is the way I have got it understood, and this is what I'm going to fight for. You elect me, I'm going to fight for three things, and there will be a lot of things that'll flow from that. So we all need to have our language. Our language, that makes us different from other people. Got to have that. And that language carries our culture. So we got to have our culture and all our dances and our just daily practices. Like my wife and I practice this when we're somewhere and I sit down on the ground. She needs to be coming on my right side, not my left side. And little things that our people did, little movements that it was everyday stuff. So we have our language and our culture, and we must have territory. We must have land to exercise those culture events, those language areas, that whole world. So we got really fortunate each step of the way. So, there's language, culture, and territory. And I look at that in the news, that Palestinian thing, And I keep wondering when they're going to get to what really makes a nation. They're going to have that territory. So I've built everything around teams that work together. They're committed to excellence, which is something you asked me later on, these questions. Who do you work with? How do you do it? And all that. Find people you want to work with that are committed to excellence. And that attracts me and attracts other people. But that's my definition of sovereignty and being a nation. And if you don't have your language and you don't have your culture, you might as well be a Kiwanis club or a Rotary club. I mean, you might as well. So I say that much.
Well, wow, Chief, I thank you for all that. That's been great. It's kind of funny. I always kind of just kind of tease my friends and whatnot. It's always if I ever run for office at any point in time, I said I'm only running on two things. That's number one, that I'm going to rebuild the Navajo Nation Fairgrounds, and then number two, I'm going to get George Strait to play there again.
Well, I tell you, that's you have a very diverse culture. You have rodeo people, you have Native American church people, you have those elders that I've seen doing ceremonies. They use. I tell my people, I say, you know how we use fans and feathers, eagles. So they got crystals, man, about that big.
Yeah.
And they use that and corn pollen and everything.
Yep.
And just everything and the beautiful ceremonies and just this philosophy of the beauty way, as they say. Mm-hmm. I don't want to get into all that, but it is so powerful. Yeah. It is so powerful. But that tells me, well, they have done what we've done. You got Catholic Church, Baptist Church, we have Church of Latter-day Saints, we got Native American Peyote people, we got our very few left of our what we call our tradition. They talk to that sun first. And I stick to that because they knew I was thick-headed as a kid, and they pounded into my head. Fortunately. That's how I learned. I made every mistake in the book on ceremonies and stuff, and I got snapped on. Just bam, they called me out. Sometime I went to visit one of our people, my wife's people. So I go down there to Hominy, Oklahoma, where our meat processing plant is, to go. We were engaged, and I come from Pahuska, my people. Although I was raised in Tulsa, about 60 miles away, not far. So we were there, and I'm trying to impress them. They stopped the ceremony because when that was my turn to sing, because I learned some cool songs from one of my uncles, and they stopped the drum and the little hand drum, little water drum. That old man said, "We don't do that down here. We don't do that." And what they're saying is I was trying to show off, which I was, because, I was like 22, 23, and she was younger even. And I was trying to show off. And they told me, "You can't do that here." And then one old man said, "You Northern Osage got good ways, Quapaw ways, but good ways." And I was like, what is this? What is this Northern Osage business? But they would tell you how it should be. And if you try to tell that next generation, Wes, I don't know how old you are, but our experience, if you try to treat your children and grandchildren, like especially our children and nieces and nephews, like we were treated, they'd be mad at you, man. They aren't going to take it. They'll get mad. Where when we learned like that, it hurt our feelings. And they come over there and say, for a while, they said, the reason we say it that way and the reason we hurt your feelings is because we love you. Mm-hmm. Okay. And, it powerful stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, that's definitely something my grandparents always talked about, just because you'll feel it, right? You'll feel the message, you understand the message. And, when my grandpa used to talk to me about certain things and kind of same thing when I would mess up. We want you to feel it because then you'll remember it. So that's kind of I kind of take that back to what I've learned as well. Well, Chief, definitely thank you for all that shared wisdom. I really appreciate your time. I know you're a very busy guy. You're running around all over the place. Just want to kind of wrap up with just a message for our listeners. What do we, as we talk about Native American Heritage Month? What do you hope the listeners today take away from leadership, resilience, and just continuing ways from whoever your people are? See what your thoughts are on that.
Well, I like the fact that we're exchanging our ideas, and I've gone to several over the years November events, but you have to remember you're seeing the surface of these tribes, their dances and so forth. Just remember, if you're going to interact and if you're going to really go to the folks, to the people, you've got to know something about where you're going. You've got to read their constitutions if they have one. You need to read those. You need to do some homework on what's important to them because it's their country. You always got to remember that. This is wherever you're going, it's their country. And you got to respect that. So you're there in their country helping out. And don't expect anything else but that. You're there to help. Now, as I get older, I get more religious. Okay. I hear my people's voices more and more and more, which is a great blessing. But when you go to these other places, they hear that too, like you're talking about, Wes. And it's they hear their own people, and you should know. This is where I come up short. When not to interfere with their communication to God in a way that they see God. That's their business. You got to be careful not to get in there. You got to respect it and pull back. And isn't respect what we all are taught? That's the first thing we put up is respect. That's what they say. Yeah, that's what they told us. Put respect first.
Right. Well, definitely appreciate that, and just want to say with a lot of gratitude and thank you for taking the time for us today, and sharing your stories, and always want to come back and have you on again for other adventures and discussions you've had, and those are always great discussions. Thank you.
Well, I hope to see you again.
Yeah, no, for sure we will.
Awesome. Shiprock Fair, that's an experience.
Yeah, that's another story. I love that story.
Everybody should have that experience. It's a beautiful thing to see.